Here's a short explanation of Ticket to Ride Europe. Let's start with the basics. The game from Days of Wonder is for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up. The average game time is 30 to 60 minutes, with the objective of the game to be the person who scores the most points by completing railroad lines and accomplishing tasks. Here's what's inside the box. The board, 46 route tickets, 110 playing cards, the longest route card, 1 scoring guide. There are 5 different colored sets of items for each player. These sets contain 1 scoring marker, 3 train stations, and 45 train cards. Plus, there is a bag containing extra pieces just in case anything goes missing. To set up, place the game board in the center of the play area. Each player chooses which color they will be and collects their appropriate items. They should place their scoring marker on the scoreboard at the number 0. Place the longest route card to the side of the board. This will be claimed by one of the players at the end of the game who is able to build the longest route. The scoring guide is also placed to the side of the board in case anyone needs to see it. Plus, it's also written on the board itself. Now look at the route tickets. Find the tickets that have a blue background and separate them from the rest of the deck. These are the long route tickets. Shuffle these cards and deal 1 to each player. Place any remaining long route tickets back in the box. Shuffle the rest of the other route tickets and deal 3 to each player. The player can decide which of the 4 tickets they wish to keep. The route ticket will include the route to build and how many points accomplishing the task is worth. Players must keep at least 2 of the tickets, but can decide to keep all 4. But be careful, route tickets that are not completed by the end of the game, the points are deducted from your final score. Any route tickets a player does not wish to keep are returned to the bottom of the pile. Shuffle the playing cards. Each player should be dealt a total of 4 cards. The remaining cards should be placed adjacent to the board so that all players can reach. Flip over the top 5 cards and place them next to the stack of cards. The rules state that the player who has traveled the most should go first, but you can decide on whoever you want. Play would then continue clockwise around the board. On a player's turn, they have 4 options, and they can do only 1 of these options per turn. They can draw new route tickets, they can draw new playing cards, they can build a train route, and they can build a train station. Let's take a look at each of these options in more detail. Drawing new route tickets. When a player decides that they wish to collect more route tickets, they can declare it at the start of their turn and then collect 3 route tickets. The player can then examine all 3 tickets and decide which tickets they wish to keep. They must keep at least 1 of the 3 cards. Players are trying to decide if they think they can complete the route by the end of the game. If they are able to complete the route, they will score the points listed on the ticket. However, any tickets at the end of the game that are not completed will cost you that amount of points. Drawing new playing cards. Playing cards are how players are able to build routes during the game. The cards are mostly made up of different kinds of train cars and colors. There are also locomotive cards, which are wild and can be used in place of any other color. If a player wishes to add cards to their hand on their turn, they can take cards from one of 2 places. They can choose to take one of the face-up cards. If they take one of the face-up cards, a new card is turned over from the face-down cards to take its place. The player can then choose a second card from either the face-down or the face-up cards. If they choose a face-up card, a new card from the face-down pile is flipped over to take its place. There is a couple of special rules when it comes to collecting new cards. If a wild card is one of the face-up cards, and a player chooses to take it, that is the only card they are allowed to take during the turn. So, if a player draws, say, a black card, and then a wild card is turned over, the player would not be able to take the wild card as their second card. They would have to choose one of the other cards, or take a card from the face-down pile. If a player draws a wild card from the face-down pile, they can still draw a second card. Another special rule is if 3 wild cards appear as one of the 5 face-up cards, all 5 cards are removed and replaced with 5 new cards. Building a train route. You will see on the map that there are all different kinds of train routes that players can claim. There are generic routes, which have no color, routes that require certain colors to complete, routes that require locomotives to complete, and tunnels. When a player wishes to claim a route between 2 cities, they must have the correct combination of cards in their hand in order to claim the route. Let's say, for example, that a player wants to claim this route between Barcelona and Madrid. The route shows 2 yellow cards are required. If the player has 2 yellow cards, or 1 wild and 1 yellow, or 2 wilds, they can claim this route. To claim the route, at the start of your turn, announce the route that you are claiming, place your cards needed into the discard pile, then take your trains and place them on the route. Once your trains are on that route, they cannot be removed and no one else can claim it. If it is a gray route you wish to claim, this can be done with any color, but they must all be the same color card that you are discarding in order to claim the route. If the route has a locomotive on it, you must place at least 1 wild card along with the colors to build the route. Building tunnels is tricky business because of cave-ins and hidden costs. If you wish to build a tunnel, you announce which route you will try to attempt. Lay down your cards that you would normally to build a route. Then, turn over the top 3 cards in the deck. If any of those 3 cards match the color being used for the route, that will reflect an extra cost to complete the route. The player would have to add any additional cards needed in order to pay for the route. If the player is unable to pay the additional cost or unwilling, they collect their cards from the board and return them back to their hand. Their turn is over. The 3 flipped cards go into the discard pile. If when flipping over the top 3 cards, one is a wild card, it counts as the color needed to complete the route. If no cards match the route, there are no additional costs and the player may complete the tunnel. After a player builds their route, check the scoring table on the board. Depending on the length of the route, a player would then score points. Move your scoring marker the appropriate amount of points. There are a few routes on the board which you will see have more than 1 line, for example, between London and Edinburgh. If one player claims one side, another player can claim the other side. The same player cannot claim both sides. If you are playing with only 2 players, once one side is claimed, another player cannot claim the second side. Building stations. A player can build 3 stations during the game. Any unused stations will add 4 points at the end of the game. Stations can be used for players to complete routes even though another player may have blocked you. Let's say a player is trying to complete a ticket that runs from Berlin to Budapest. They have built the route from Berlin to Vienna, but other players have already claimed the route from Vienna to Budapest. The player can then place a station on Vienna, which will allow him to get to the next connecting station using an opponent's trains. In order to build a station on your turn, you simply announce that you are building a station. If it is your first station, it will cost you 1 card from your hand. The second station costs 2 cards, and the third station costs 3 cards. You then place the station on the city that you wish. Once the station has been placed, it cannot be moved, nor can another player build a station on that city. So players continue through the game, building, collecting cards, and trying to complete tickets. When a player has only 2 trains left to play, this will trigger the end of the game. Each player is allowed 1 more turn after this, finishing with the player who triggered the end of the game. Once all turns have been completed, it's time to add up the final points. Each player would then reveal the tickets that they have completed and how they were accomplished, keeping in mind that there can be more than 1 way to complete a ticket. Any completed ticket points are added to a player's score. Likewise, if any player has any incomplete tickets, those points are removed from the score. Players also add up any unused stations to their final score, and then finally, you must see who has completed the longest route. To count the longest route, each player needs to count all of the trains that are connected in a single line without using any stations. The player who has the most trains connected would claim the longest route card and a bonus 10 points. The person who has the highest score at the end is the winner. So, now you know the basics. All aboard, let's play!